Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to be creating a viral growth thumbnail. You will see this sort of thumbnail style used a lot by YouTube growth channels. These are channels which are dedicated to helping people grow their YouTube channel or helping them create more engaging content in order to gain more views. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. Okay guys, so like always, let's create a new document. So we are going to keep the width to 1920, height 1080, and we'll keep all the other options the same and click create. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've added in a background gradient, and how you can go ahead and achieve this is simply create a new layer and then just double click like so, and then just click on gradient overlay. So for the colors, I've got a nice dark gray on the left hand side of the gradient slider, and on the right hand side I have just a lighter gray. So I'll just leave the hex codes down below for you guys if you are following along with this tutorial. Now also make sure that you have the settings below if you would like to follow exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so what I will do now is I will move on to the next step, which will be to add in some lines into the background. That's going to serve as a sort of background element which looks nice when you use it alongside graphs. So we're going to go ahead and create that right now. Okay guys, so the first step will be to select the marquee tool. So we're going to do that right now, and we are just going to make a little selection like so. So when we zoom in here, you can see that we're just creating a little line, right? And so we just need to fill in this selection in order for it to be a simple line. So let's just do that. So let's go ahead and click on the adjustment layers now, and let's click on solid color like so. And then we're just going to change the color to pure white. Let's click OK. And from here we can press Command or Control T and resize this to the size, or the thickness rather, of the line that we would want. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to maybe decrease the size to something about 5 pixels like so. With the layer selected, I'm just going to quickly move it down a little bit like so to something like this. Okay, and then what I will do now is I will have the layer selected again and press Command or Control J in order to make a duplicate. Then with that we will go ahead and press Command or Control T so that we are selecting the duplicate, and we will just now drag it up like so until we get a sort of even amount of negative space between both of these lines. Okay, so I've just spaced these out and something like this should be fine. Let's go ahead now and change the color of both lines. So just click on the color for the first color fill layer, and we are just going to change it to a nice sort of light gray. Something like this should be fine, and click OK. What we can also do is just double click again and go back and get the hex code, and we can use this and just paste it in so we get the exact same color, and click OK. Okay guys, so what I want to do now is I want to soften these lines as they're quite hard at the moment. So how we can go ahead and do this is by using a Gaussian blur. So what I will first do is I'm going to merge these two layers together. So highlight both layers and then press Command or Control E to merge, and then we will go ahead and go to filter. Let's just convert for smart filters first and click OK, then filter, blur and Gaussian blur. Okay, and let's just keep the radius to something like 1.5. That should do the trick. Now, given that we converted to smart filters, if you do not feel like the blur is enough, you can always go back in and just double click on Gaussian blur, and you can adjust the radius to whatever you please. I think I'm going to add another line in here, and we could probably bring this down, and so we can have 3 lines. I think it would look better. I do these things live, guys, so I do sort of think of things on the fly, and I want to change it. I've got no shame in doing that. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to get the marquee tool, and I'm just going to highlight over one of them and then press Command J. So go ahead and now press Command or Control T, and then we can just bring this up like so. And I'm just now going to space these so that we have an even amount of space between all of the lines. Okay guys, so I've just spaced them out and it looks better than it did before. So now we will move on to the next step, which will be to add in the graph line. Okay, so the first step will be to go ahead and create a new layer. So let's go ahead and do that. And what we will now do is we are going to press P for the pen tool, and we are going to change the setting here to shape. Like so. We are now going to make sure that the fill is set to no fill, and we are going to now adjust the color of the stroke. So I'm just going to change the color of the stroke now to a nice blue color. So let's just go ahead to the blue, and let's just find a nice blue. Let's try something like this for now, and we can always adjust this afterwards, so do not worry too much about the color. Something like this should be fine. Let's now also make sure to change the stroke thickness to about, let's say 14 6.5 pixels. I've done these sort of thumbnails a lot, so I know what size works the best for these sort of thumbnails. About 14 to 16 pixels will always do a good job. Okay, so now it's all about adding some points on the canvas. So I'm just going to start outside of the canvas for the first anchor point, and I'm just going to now just tap like so. As you can see, we now have a shape. So our layer that we created earlier has now turned into a shape. So let's just now go ahead and add some anchor points on the screen like so. And I don't like to actually organize these the first time round. I simply just add a lot of anchor points onto the screen, and then I go back in afterwards and adjust them using the direct selection tool. Now let's just continue to make our anchor points in a zigzag motion like so. Now let's just escape for a second. Now as you can see guys, this looks like an absolute mess. So we're going to adjust this right now using the direct selection tool and place our anchor points where we please. So again, just to explain to you guys, press A for the direct selection tool, and you can go ahead now and just drag like so over any anchor point, and then you can click on the anchor point and adjust it to wherever you want it to be. Okay, and if you would like to add anchor points into the actual line, all you need to do is have P for the pencil and then just hover over the line, and then you can just click like so. And as you can see, we now have a new anchor point on our line. So I'm just going to adjust our anchor points right now until I'm satisfied with the placement of all our points. I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay guys, so after fiddling about with these anchor points for a very long time, I finally came up with a nice composition of where I wanted my anchor points to be. So as you can see, I've deleted a lot of the anchor points and I've just kept it minimal because I think that looks the best. Okay guys, so now it's time for the next step. So what we will do is we will create a layer, and then we will just make sure that we place it underneath the line like so. And let's just also just name this line so that we are organized. We'll also just group these two layers together, and we will call those background lines like so. We're just keeping organized here guys, because I do know that things can get very messy very quickly. So let's just focus on doing that. Okay, and we are just going to name this layer here shadow. So what this is going to be is the shadow glow effect, which is underneath the line. So let's just keep this to shadow like so. We now need to add in the glow effect, which is going to be underneath this line. So we only want the glow effect to be within this sort of area. So we need to first make a selection in order for us to go ahead and achieve that. So let's go ahead and have the polygonal lasso tool selected like so. And then we are just going to make sure that we have the lines layer selected, and let's just zoom in now like so. And we are just going to make a selection within the line. So we're just going to keep our selection within the line like so. So just follow along and make sure that the anchor points are all within the line like so. Now we can just zoom out, and I can just now join the selection together. Okay, so once you've made that selection, we now need to add in the shadow effect. So what we are going to do is we are going to press B for the brush tool. We are going to set our flow to 60%, or let's do 50%. And we are now going to sample the color of the line. So hold down Alt or Option, and then just click on the line like so. And that's just going to pick the color of the line for you. Okay, so we're just going to hold and drag softly like so, and we're just going to do this twice. So that was one, and we'll do this one more time, so two. Something like that should be fine. Then we are just going to press Command or Control D to deselect. From here, we can then go ahead and decrease the opacity, and let's just bring this down to about, let's say 70% should do the trick for now. Okay, so that's looking good. So just remember guys that you can adjust the strength of this shadow to whatever you like. So you could even increase it all the way up to 100 if that's what you like and want to do. So I'm just going to undo that because I want to keep the opacity to 75. And now we are going to focus on making the color adjustments we want to make. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the color of the line. So I'm going to double click like so, and then just click on color overlay. What that's going to do is allow me to just adjust the color of the line to whatever I want. So let's just take it back up to the blue shades, and let's just make it more lighter like so, something like this. So let's just have a nice bright light blue. Yep, something like this looks just fine, and click OK. Now if you want to adjust the color of the shadow, all you need to do is add a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So just go to the adjustment layers and then click on hue and saturation, and just make sure to make a clipping mask to the actual layer. So just hold down Alt or Option and click like so. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on colorize, and I'm just going to try and match the color of the shadow to match with the line. So let's just go ahead and just do that right now. So let's just go ahead and increase the saturation, play with the brightness until we get the final result that we're looking for. Even increase the saturation if you need to. Yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. Okay, something like this should be fine. Now I want to add an outer glow to the line, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So let's go to the line layer, and we are going to double click and then click on outer glow. Okay, and then from here let's make some adjustments to the glow until we are happy and satisfied with the result. So let's keep the blending mode to linear dodge add, because I like that, it looks really nice with the glows. And let's just work with what we have here. So I'm just going to off the bat increase the size. That looks really good as it is. Yeah, we are going to increase the opacity. We might actually decrease the size a bit. And so again with this, you are just simply toggling until you are happy with how it looks. So just keep doing it until you are satisfied. So let's just keep going. We might even increase the color of the blue here. It's a really dark blue. Let's just bring it up a little bit more. Yeah, that's looking really nice. Yeah, something like this is looking really good. Okay, let's just decrease the size a little bit more to something like this. Maybe decrease the opacity. And again, as you can see guys, I'm simply toggling with this again and again because I'm just looking for what I want. So yeah guys, something like this looks just fine. I'm just going to go back into the shadow clipping mask with hue and saturation. I'm just going to adjust this as well. So let's just quickly adjust the hue a little bit and then increase the saturation like so. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Now knowing me, I'm probably going to end up changing the color again, but I will do that at the end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and now add in the subject, which in this case is myself. Okay guys, so here I have an image of myself. So this will serve as the subject for this tutorial. Now if you're following along, you can go ahead and use any image of your choice. Okay, so the first step will be to add a drop shadow to the subject. So I'm just going to double click on the subject and I'm just going to click on drop shadow like so. Now let's make some adjustments to the drop shadow. So let's increase the opacity to, let's say 50. Let's increase the size. Yeah, let's increase the opacity a little bit more. Maybe increase the size again. Maybe decrease the opacity to something like this. This should be fine like that. Okay. So the next step will be to add some light to the subject. Since there's some glow effect on the line we see here, I want this to have the illusion of it shining on the subject. And the reason for this is simply to make every element within the thumbnail merge well together. Okay, so I'm just going to go to adjustment layers and I'm going to click on solid color like so. Let's just keep the color to what it is right now and click OK. Then we will go ahead and press Alt or Option in between both of these layers in order to create a clipping mask, and then we will change the blending mode to screen like so. Again, from here you can now go to the color picker and you can go ahead and source the line and the glow of the line like so in order to get an accurate color that you're looking for, and press OK. From here we will now go ahead and invert this mask, so Command or Control I to do that, and we will now paint in the light where we want it to be. Okay, so I'm going to press B for the brush tool. I'm just going to decrease the size of my brush ever so slightly, and I'm going to make sure that the flow is set to about 40 for now, and then we are just going to zoom into the subject, and we are just now going to make sure that the color is set to white because we want what we are painting in to be visible, and then we are just going to now add some soft light to the subject like so. So let's just add in some soft light, and we'll do a little bit here as well. And again, you can just decrease and increase the brush size in order to get different strokes. So something like this is looking pretty good. It's very faint, but it definitely merges everything well together. That's the reason why I'm doing it. So now if we zoom out, you can see now that the subject is blended in well with the background. This is before and this is after. It just gives a realistic look to the subject. So I'm just going to add a little bit more glow to the top of the hat here, as you can see, and just make it look more realistic. Something like that should be fine. Maybe let's just have the color set to black for a second, and we will just go back in and just remove some of this and make it look more better. That's looking really good to me. Okay guys, so everything's coming together. Now it's time to move on to the next step, which will be to add in the text. So what I will do is I will type views and I will add a random number next to it. What I will also do is add a green arrow showing that the views are increasing. So let's press T for the type tool, and we are just going to click on the canvas and we are going to type in views. So capital V IEWS. Now I'm just going to have the text font set to Helvetica regular, and I'm just going to adjust the color of this text layer to a light gray. So let's keep doing it. Something like that should be fine. Okay, now from here what I will do is I will press Command or Control T, and I will now zoom in because we need to zoom in order to see what we're doing here. I will hold down Command or Control and I will just click on this anchor point here, so the top right corner, and I will drag like so. Whilst holding down Control or Command, it will allow you to make the text slanted. So as much as you drag it will be to the extent in which the text slants. So something like this should be fine. Let's just zoom out and see. Press enter. Yeah, that looks good to me. Okay, so now I'm just going to click again to create another text layer, and I'm going to set the color to white from the get-go. So we are going to make sure that this is a white color, and I'm just going to type in a large number because obviously guys, we need a bit of clickbait in this video. Okay, so I'm just going to type in 1 3 4 2 3 4 5. That's as random as it gets, guys, whilst also making sure that it's a large number. Okay, so let's just now increase the size of this to something like this. So let's just keep going until we are satisfied with the size. Okay, so what we will do now, guys, is I want to encase these two elements into a rectangular box, which I'm going to create right now. So let's go ahead and go to the rectangle tool, and we are going to just create a rectangle over both of these text layers. So something like this should be fine. Okay, and then we are just going to eliminate the stroke and we will just add a fill. So I'm just going to enter in a hex code here, which is the color I'm looking for. So something like this should be fine. It should be similar to the background color. Okay, let's just place this underneath the two text layers, and let's now just try and make sure that everything is sort of in the right position, and we can just move things about until we are happy with the composition. So let's just move this closer in. We might actually extend the rectangle because we're going to need a little bit more space because we are going to add an icon here. So let's just make space for that. And let's just bring everything more to the top corner like so. Something like this looks perfect. Okay, now I want the corners of the rectangle to be rounded, so I'm just going to click on the rectangle layer and I'm just going to enter in 35 pixels like so. If you have this chain clicked, it will autofill whatever you've typed in into all of the corners. Now obviously guys, at the moment it looks as if you can't even see the rectangle at all, but that's all going to change right now. So we're just going to have the rectangle layer selected and we are going to double click on it and we are going to click on outer glow like so. Okay, so let's just do that first. We are going to keep the blending mode to linear dodge add. We are going to increase the opacity because we want this to be quite bright. We will increase the size a little bit more as well to, let's just keep it to 49 for now. And then we are going to click OK. So what we will do now is we will right click on the outer glow effect and we will create a layer. What that's going to do is it's going to put the outer glow effect into its own separate layer. And what we can do from there is come back into our original rectangle layer and add another outer glow. So let's just do that again. And as you can see, when you use the blending mode linear dodge add, it creates a nice glow effect like the one you see on screen. So I'm just going to zoom into that. As you can see, it's a very faint blue here, but it really goes into a nice neon blue glow. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust these settings here. Let's keep it to about 80 opacity, and we're going to click OK. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to highlight and have all the layers selected. So starting from the outer glow all the way up to the top layer, I'm going to press Command or Control T, and I'm now just going to resize this and make it a little bit smaller. Something like this looks just fine. So that's looking really good. I'm going to move this text layer here, the white number, more to the left because we want to make space for the icon. Okay, now it's time to add that in. As you can see guys, I've added in a green circle with an arrow inside of it. This is pre-made in order to save time during the tutorial. But if you guys want to know how to make this, I will explain the steps for you right now. So what I did was I simply created a circle and I created a gradient into that circle. So I added a gradient, and I'll give you the hex codes for this down below. So click OK and make sure to copy all of the settings you see on screen. What I did after that was I added in a stroke and I set it to inside, and I had this hex code here which was for the outside of the circle. Okay, make sure again to follow along with these settings if you would like to emulate this. And then after that I added an outer glow, so I kept the blend mode to linear dodge add, and you should follow all of the settings you see on screen and keep it to the color you see right here, which I will provide down below. The arrow is created by the pen tool, so I simply created half of the arrow and then I just duplicated it and then flipped it to mirror the other half, and I just joined them together. Now that's how you create the green circle icon. I hope you guys understood those steps. Okay guys, so I'm just going to quickly circle back and do one more thing on the line. I want to add a little bit of a soft glow to the line. So what I will do is I will first find the line layer, which we have labeled as line. That was helpful. Let's now create a new layer and then press B for the brush tool, and then we are just going to increase our brush size. Let's hold down Alt or Option so that we can select the color of the glow, and then let's just set our flow to about 5%. What we will now do is we are just going to lightly tap over the glow in order to increase the strength of it. So let's just do that. And this is just going to help things sort of stand out more on screen. Looking really good. So as you can see guys, here is before and here is after. So we can decrease the opacity of this to about, let's say 70%, so that it's not so obvious, but it's definitely making a difference, as you can see. Let's also not forget to add a glow, or outer glow rather, to our text layer. So we are going to click on our text layer and we are going to create a outer glow. Let's change the color to white. And then we are just going to toggle with these settings. So let's just decrease the strength of this, decrease the opacity. We do want this to be bright, but not overly bright. Something like this looks just fine. Okay guys, and now it's time for the final step, which is of course the camera raw filter. So what we will do is we will have the top layer selected, and then we are just going to press Command, Option, Shift and E, and that's just going to merge all the layers into one layer. And then we will right click and convert to Smart Object, and then we will click on Filter and Camera Raw Filter. Okay guys, so here we are in my favorite place to be, Camera Raw Filter. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments right now. So let's start off in the light section. So let's increase the exposure to about 0.15. Let's increase the contrast. Yeah, that looks really nice when we increase the contrast. So let's take this up to about, let's say 25. Yeah, we'll keep the highlights to 0. We'll keep the shadows, maybe we'll bring some shadows back in by decreasing the slider. Yeah, that looks good. So let's do -10. That looks good. Okay, so let's adjust the temperature. Let's bring it to the left. And as you can see, it really brings out a nice blue when we do that. So let's definitely move in that direction. So let's take this more to about -8. That looks much better, guys. -8. Let's also increase the vibrance, guys, to about 15. That looks really good. Okay, let's also increase the saturation. So let's just take this up to about 5. That should do the trick. Okay, moving into effects, let's increase the texture to +15. Let's increase the clarity to +10. Now let's increase the clarity to about 5. That looks good. Let's also create a vignette. So let's take this slider down That's looking really nice. Let's keep it to -25. Okay, so let's add some grain. So let's take it to +12. Like so, that looks really good. Let's also go to detail. Let's increase the sharpening to 20 pixels. That looks good. And let's now go into calibration and adjust the hues of the blue. So let's go to blue primary and let's just play with the sliders and see if we can achieve a better blue shade. So when we go to the left, we can get a nice shade, I can see. Well, I actually like it as it is. So I'm just going to try and increase the saturation. Yeah, that looks much better. So let's keep this to +15 and then click OK. So there you have it, guys, a viral growth thumbnail. Now, if you like this tutorial and you would like to see more like this one, please make sure to subscribe to my channel because I will be uploading tutorials like this weekly. If you guys have any feedback or thoughts, leave them in the comment section down below. I'm always looking to hear back from my audience. If I can improve for you guys, trust me, I will do it. Thank you very much for watching this video, and until next time, peace.